sitting here, we're all 6 of our presentations. But when we sat down and realized what the common themes were in all of our projects, we first realized that individuals lack part of the system. It takes an individual to steer a company, to lead a government, or to voice the opinion of its people, which directly relates to the will to take up that responsibility to speak up. Thirdly, cooperation is key, meaning that the most effective solutions to global issues require the cooperation of all 3 actors. It can't fall on the responsibility of just one sector. And then finally, the issue of accountability and transparency. Accountability and transparency legitimizes everything that we do. So without that, then it legitimizes everything that we do. So and then we'll talk about academic contributions.
Well, we hope that we have contributed to the academic world. But the way we do it is that we contributed with a holistic approach because we haven't seen this kind of framework or this kind of system applied elsewhere. So that was a huge contribution in which all of the actors are involved. And next, the triangle of responsibilities, which is a graphical representation of the roles and responsibilities of the main actors and what they should be doing in the international system, and divided in core responsibilities and responsibilities to sustainable development. And finally, our contribution of cultural sensitivity, which previously was largely ignored in the discussion of sustainable development, and recognizing that there are other cultures, not only in terms of ethnicity, but also corporate culture. So there's a lot of aspects of cultural sensitivity that we brought out in our research. And Brad's going to talk about the overall group conclusion of our project, which we hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a little bit about what it is, what a capstone is like, what is it like working with a group, and really, you know, I think that that we collectively feel that our group represents the project. We represent a bunch of individuals, a bunch of people that represent different things, different ideas, different ways of viewing life, and we all had to work together for a common goal. We didn't know what that goal was at the time, but we figured that out, and we successfully worked together, and we came out with a project that does have academic contribution, that does have a great bit of knowledge to it. So overall, I look at us as a tiny little version of the overall project. And you know, I think that the capstone is an outstanding thing that exists for this program. And if there are people out there who have yet to do theses for a program, I highly recommend doing it. The group experience is something that you can take with you well beyond the scope of your degree. So thank you very much, and we would like to thank everybody involved with this. Questions that you might have. Emily has a roving mic if you would like to ask any questions for us. Back.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm a journalist. I've been working with financial markets and economy for the past several years. Now I'm in a sabbatical period, so the question is going to be off the records, of course, but I would like to hear your opinion on some changes that I envision as a journalist, and I might be wrong on that. Changes, some doors that are being opened in terms of new values for the markets, for investors, for the companies, and for governments. Because investors will start perhaps choosing more companies that have social responsibility, environmental responsibility, that are dedicated to human resources fields, and cash generation and profit are going to have the same weight as these other factors. And therefore companies will have to change, and governments will have to change to attract these companies. I would like to know if you agree with this perspective, and if you do, how close are we to living or seeing these changes?
I'll speak to that. I do agree with you, and if I didn't, my paper wouldn't mean much. As soon as, for instance, in my research, a good example that I saw of that was CalPERS, which is probably one of the largest pension funds in the world, the California Pension Fund for Teachers and Government Workers. CalPERS recently initiated a firm-wide risk assessment strategy in which they looked at the environmental strategies, the kind of environmental strategies that I was talking about, at every one of the firms that they put money into. In that respect, not only were they trying to, obviously, trying to achieve profits, risk assessment is one of the most important things you could do, but they were also engaging in their own, what I thought as I read it, they were kind of engaging their own environmental strategy and risk and stakeholder engagement, seeing what the firms they invest in were doing. So, yeah, I would agree that a lot of firms are recognizing the value in taking environmental and social performance of the corporation into consideration. Whether we're close to the environmental or social performance is being taken with the same priorities as the financial performance of the firm, I'm not totally sure. It's certainly a growing movement in Europe. The UK government even offers is beginning to initiate a movement where individuals, very small investors, can use a government agency to direct them to more socially responsible investment firms, and they suggest certain ones. So I mean, it's changing slowly, slowly but surely. That's my opinion. Another question?
Yeah, I've got one. Got several, but anyway, just sticking to one. Regarding, I guess, corporate governance, I was looking at fair trade and how fair trade, for instance, in Rwanda, how I had been looking at the situation how Reagan and the neoconservative perspective, emphasizing the view of shareholder profit maximization, shareholder value and profit maximization. How that view influenced the cancellation of a particular management strategy of commodities using supply management. And then of course, having several responses, having several consequences, both in Rwanda on the one hand and then in Chiapas, Mexico, famously, on the other, in both cases famously. And so the response in both those situations of fair trade, now, the spread of fair trade, has involved a practice by importers in industrialized countries, using a slight shift in their priorities. Maybe you can compound. I was wondering if you had come across any, or what some of the issues you've seen in terms of, in particular, I guess, the relationship between government, either in industrialized countries, regulating transnational corporations, or successful reforms in developing nations in both either managing transnational corporations or in supporting domestic business growth.
Thank you. Sophia, you want to talk to that? No? Sophia, Patrick? Yes, please.
I don't know if I totally follow that, but no, I just. But as far as fair trade, I mean, Indonesian. As soon as I think of fair trade, I immediately think of Indonesian logging. There have been successful movements that I read about regarding trying to U.S. companies and EU companies requiring sustainable wood products for their products. At the same time, a Walmart customer isn't particularly concerned with that and would prefer to pay a premium price rather than pay higher for sustainable products. I think the debate as to fair trade and what we deem to be appropriate as far as products goes is very culturally sensitive. For instance, issues of child labor and what one country may view as their competitive advantage is something that they want to exploit. Maybe our opinion that we believe it's something they shouldn't exploit. As far as government initiatives goes, I don't believe we looked into issues of that as much because when it comes to government initiatives aimed at certain fair trade policies, at least in my opinion at times and in some of the research I did, it was tainted with policy and at least to some degree, and certain industries' objectives to protect their interests within a given country, particularly obviously in the US and EU. So yeah, I'd say that's where we arrived with that whole situation.
We'd like to take one more question, and then I think after that we're going to all be walking around, and so we were happy to answer questions. I know that this is going to take a while, so we have some drinks and a little bit of munch on back there once we get to that. But we would like to have one more question. Yes, sir.
This is actually just more of a fun question. So Maria, your conclusions would seem to imply that perhaps by legalizing, let's say, opium, we could shed some transparency on the production of coffee in Afghanistan and perhaps destabilize Al-Qaeda.
Well, my personal opinion is that if we remember the prohibition of alcohol in the 1930s in the US, it was a complete failure, and the market went to the underground anyways. And now that it's regulated, teenagers get drugs easier than they can get alcohol or cigarettes. So that's my personal opinion, but I didn't really highlight that. I only highlighted the fact that the current laws should be re-examined. Maybe some of these markets, like opium, should be illegal if the consequences of legalization are worse than what is going on currently. But from what I see, the problem of drugs has been exploded disproportionately than what the problem really is. But that's my personal opinion. So I think that examining the current laws and really looking into the essence of what they really mean and what they really represent is what should be done.
All right, thank you all.